Okay, so I am ready to admit I am going into this movie, or I should say I did go into this movie with my nostalgia goggles on big time. Twister is my all-time favorite disaster movie. And disaster movies are one of my favorite movie genres. Independence Day, Dante's Peak. I was really excited about this, to say the least. It was my most anticipated movie of the year, so I feel like sometimes when you hype something up and go in with such high expectations, it can disappoint you, primarily because you've had such high expectations, not because the movie itself is bad. And this is definitely not a bad movie, but obviously it wasn't going to compare to the original. Well, not for me personally. Maybe for you, you'll like it even better, especially for a younger audience who doesn't have that feeling of nostalgia over the original. So I feel like it worked well as a standalone movie. It wasn't trying to constantly remind the audience of the original through Easter eggs and callbacks to like invoke a feeling of nostalgia like Jurassic World. Instead, it was completely its own thing. The only Easter egg, mild spoiler, I guess, the only Easter egg I can even think of in the movie was Dorothy. So it had that same Oklahoma country vibe, the country music, and I absolutely loved that. So I found Glen Powell and Daisy-Edgar Jones to be engaging characters. I've liked Glen Powell ever since I saw him in Scream Queens. I think he's really got a charisma to him as an actor, and he was definitely the standout of the movie. So they call this movie not quite a remake or a reboot, but a sort of sequel to the original movie, and I think they should have just gone in and really tried to connect those two movies, or completely just say this is a remake of the original, because it felt like a remake, if I'm being honest. So basically the same storyline with the same sort of characters in the same sort of situations. There's the love triangle, there's the quirky side characters. Like the original ones were quirky, fun, engaging. You cared about them, like the aunt when her house got hit by the twister. Thankfully the dog survived, but you cared about them. In this one, I didn't connect to any of the side characters. The two main ones, yes, I liked them, but everybody else, no. It just felt like they were weak, watered down versions of the original. One of the things I like most about the original is how phenomenal the practical effects looked, because they incorporated a lot of practical effects in their CGI, and it made it really stand the test of time. I rewatched it last week, and those disaster scenes still are just, even though you know what's coming, they're filled with so much tension and dread. And I felt like this movie lacked that same atmosphere, that same ambiance of just being afraid of the power that these tornadoes have, like how much a force of nature they are. Like in the beginning of the movie, I just wasn't really feeling it, but then the tension did pick up towards the end of the movie. I will say that some of the scenes towards the end really were good, and it looked good. The storms did look good, I'll give it that. They incorporated practical effects again in this movie, so I was happy about that. But unfortunately, there's no flying cows in this movie. Sorry to disappoint you. I feel like this movie tries to be a bit too deep and socially aware. There's talk about climate change, and there's a character with a tragic backstory that constantly gets referenced throughout the movie. And the original movie had heart, but at the same time, they kept it light enough that you could enjoy it. But this one feels like it's trying to take itself too seriously, and they should have lent more into what made this movie work, which is Glen Powell, his charisma, the funny, humorous moments, which were there. They should have let more into that. But overall, this isn't a bad movie. Like I said, it's just one that I think I'm looking through my nostalgia goggles and probably being too harsh. If you don't care at all about the original, this is probably an 8 out of 10. But for me, I'm going to knock it down to 7.5 out of 10. So if you've seen this, let me know what you thought of it down below. Please subscribe, like, all of that stuff. Thanks, guys.